Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. We are live right now. Change yourself on the 18th of March in the year 2021. It is now 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the skies are overcast. That's it. News is over. I'm done. See you later. So, first of all, as always, let me express my love for each and every one of you. You are exactly where you need to be right now in your life. You are experiencing exactly the right things. There is nothing wrong right now. So why in the name of God are we going to talk about change? Because I really like messing with people. That's why. No, honestly, this is a big deal for a lot of people, okay? Most people spend their entire lives desperately trying to change something outside of themselves, right? And before we go any further, let me just make it abundantly clear that I'm not saying that changing just for the sake of changing is a bad thing. So let's just go through a typical lifespan, okay? So you begin to develop this egoic sense of self. You become identified with it. And for you, even though there's all these experiences being added, and you know darn well you're not the same person you were when you were 12, you still have this sense of you. And that's really the unchanging part of you, the you-ness, the sense of life. But beyond that is this changing part of yourself. You know, the child hopefully grows up, and you know, sadly, I know a lot of men especially who just don't. Various experiences happen, and like it or not, aware of it or not, you're constantly evolving, constantly changing. So whenever we run into situations where something's not right, or our judgment is that it's not right, let's say, our perception, we want to change our surroundings. We want to change that exterior environment because we think that's going to fix it. Now, I'm not saying that if you work at McDonald's when you're a teenager, well, then that's where you should stay, as a McDonald's for the rest of your days. I'm not saying that. What we're not talking about here is the ability for an awakened person to realize that what they're doing is no longer serving them, i.e. in an occupation, and choose to change occupations. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the idea that in order to make your reality okay, something outside of yourself has to change. Now, that may seem all well and good at first. And believe me, I speak from direct experience with this. A number of times in my life when I was young that I would try to run away from myself. You know, you go to a new town, you nobody knows you, you start meeting new people, and everything seems to be going the way it's supposed to now. But inevitably, sooner or later, those same old patterns begin to resurface. Why? Because you never did resolve them, and life is going to return them to you, believe it or not, at your behest. Because you're the one with the pattern, and life is responding to it. So we try to change our exterior environment, and probably the most disturbing of all is trying to change those around us. Because in our perception, they're not who we want them to be. Now, when you really look at that closely, that speaks of a profound arrogance, the idea that you know better than what someone else's journey is. Now, that doesn't mean we cannot offer them advice, that we cannot be there to pick them up when they fall down. That's not about that. It's about the idea that you're not happy because of something that you're perceiving as outside of yourself, so you're trying to change it. And as I said in the same example about moving to a new town, you may indeed experience some measure of success, but it's doomed, ultimately. You know, I gotta say that if there's one word that I really, really enjoy saying, it's doom. I don't know. It's just one of those words, doom. We're all doomed. That's enough, doom. Doom and gloom. Oh man, I gotta get out of the room. I tell you. This is the deal, though. The only opportunity you have is to change yourself. It's the only place that you have a measure of control, and a lot of that you have to learn again. You have to learn that you're not that egoic sense of self. You're that silent, vibrant listener that takes in everything without comment or without perturbation. Nothing is disturbed. But we can look at ourselves and we can realize that at the egoic level that our modus operandi, the way we're choosing to operate, is not serving us, and begin to make the only change that we have a real chance of success with. And that is ourselves. So when we perceive something outside of ourselves isn't the way we think it should be, that's really a big glaring signpost to say you're looking the wrong way. Turn around. Now, what does this do for us? Well, the most common example that I deal with is, unfortunately, women who are in long-term abusive situations, where the abuse comes and goes, waves in and out, but there's never that final straw that breaks the camel's back. And the reason being is that the abuse goes on for so long that the level of abuse has actually been climbing, but the person being abused has become adjusted to the level of abuse. And this is a really sad state of affairs that's being magnified in the world right now in many, many ways. And a lot of these women, and yes, there are some men too, out of a state of fear of the unknown, will seek to change the person they're with. And of course, the issue with that is you can never force someone else to change. They must choose it. And in reality, it's only you that has to change. And this is a very hot topic and a difficult topic for a lot of people to come to terms with. And the one thing I will never ever do is look you straight in the eye and say, you have to leave. That is a conversation that you must have with yourself in the same way with anything that we perceive that we don't like outside of ourselves. We're being offered the opportunity to turn around and to see what it's mirroring. And that doesn't make it our fault. That doesn't make us to blame in any way. But what it does make us is responsible. Responsible for our choices, our ability to change. You've been changing your entire life. A lot of it's been very unconscious. You're given the opportunity now to change consciously. And the biggest thing you have to give up are your perceptions that it is those things outside of you that have to be adjusted. That is a never-ending battle. It may appear you win it for short periods of time, but it will not change the dysfunction that will grow and explode forth again. This is why we must always look within ourselves. And in order to look within yourself, you have to get out of the way. You have to be willing to be so searingly honest with yourself, like X-ray eyes peering into the deepest, darkest recesses of your being, of your egoic sense of self, and being perfectly okay with whatever happens to be there. There's no guilt to carry. There is nothing that you're hiding deep within you that cannot be brought into the light of your awareness and healed. And the degree to which the healing is offered you is the degree to which you are willing to receive the healing from your own being. And that healing will require you to drop concepts of the mind. It'll require you to drop your perceptions, to stop looking at the other as being responsible, and instead look at yourself and be responsible for yourself. So, again, what does this mean in the real world? How do we apply this? And I'm going to give you an example in relation to the same example that I alluded to, that I deal with over and over and over again. If a woman is in an abusive situation, at some point she must change her view, her perception of herself, and become fully aware that it is her right to choose whether or not to continue on taking that abuse. Now, there's going to be fear. There's going to be guilt. And a lot of times those people who would rain that abuse down externally will recognize and use that fear and use that guilt. When we are in these situations, these are what I call crux points. And it's a term that I haven't really used to date with you yet, because there's no sense trying to confuse the issue too early on. But all throughout your life are peppered these crux points, these points where the pressure is going to build and build and build, and life is giving you an opportunity to either pop your lid and explode, or turn that pressure release valve to consciously choose for yourself, fully, honestly, without fear, without guilt, without concern for the future, but to choose for yourself 100% honestly, 100% truthfully, 100% in alignment with who you are, not what anyone else would say about you. Does that always mean you get what you want? And you're doomed. And And the answer to that is no, it doesn't. If you're looking to use this as a way to force someone else to change, it's not going to happen. It won't last. When you choose for yourself, I've known one too many of those women who've ended up severely harmed and even dead after making those choices for themselves. And if that is the time to go, it's clear that in the act of them choosing fully for themselves, they finally got that last task out of the way, and it was time for them to leave. There's no guarantee. You're not safe here. You were never supposed to be safe here. And because you aren't here to be safe, you don't have to worry about being safe. The only thing you need concern yourself with is whether or not that which you know yourself to be, and the thoughts that you're having in your head, and the words that come out of your mouth, and the actions that follow that, are all traveling in a straight line. The truth of your higher being, reflected in your own thoughts, manifest in the words you speak, and materializing in the world through the actions you take. If you're in a situation, or you're having an experience, or you see yourself in an environment that is not conducive to, or in which you are not fully in alignment with yourself, it is not the responsibility of the environment to change. It's all up to you. It's all on you. All of creation is watching fervently, with excitement, on the edge of their, literally chewing fingernails universally, watching to see what you're going to choose next, waiting to see if you're going to begin to exercise the true power of your being. And that doesn't involve anything outside of you. I know it's scary. I know it can seem like darkness surrounds you. But the darkness is love itself, there to allow you to see the light that you are, to convince you to allow yourself to shine fully, and whatever anyone else thinks about that can be damned. You are a magnificent, whole, complete, powerful being, here having a human experience. There is no way you can mess this up. You can choose not to choose, but that's still a choice. You can continue to try to change others and suffer the results of trying to do so over and over again. Or you can free yourself. Better to live that one day fully free, fully alive, than live 1,000 years afraid, unwilling to choose fully for yourself. In either case, all of creation has your back. There's no timeline on this. You are not this one simple existence. You are a never-ending string of apparent existences within the one existence that you truly are. Take this to heart. Have that conversation with yourself. Be fully honest with yourself. and see what choices you're willing to make for you, totally for you, perhaps for the first time. Namaste, much love. Have a beautiful Thursday evening. We will talk again very soon.